My little group of friends, the reason that we don't listen is because they tell us bullshit.
In this series, we'll be exploring the realities of life on social welfare.
There's something wrong with the world today. I don't know why.
People who all receive various forms of state assistance have agreed to spend one intensive week with their local TDs in order to show them what it's really like to live on the bottom rung of Ireland's economic ladder.
If you were to just walk in without being a politician, would you move into a flat like this?
No.
If I had to face that every night, I would certainly be drunk or drugged or whatever, or both.
Issues around housing, health and access to employment are tackled as constituents and their TDs get to know each other better.
These are the people that's running our country. They live in a bubble.
And get a chance to walk a mile in each other's shoes. Former Lord Mayor of Dublin, Catherine Byrne, was elected to Dole in 2007 and again in 2011 to represent Dublin South Central.
I would have never entered politics if I didn't think that I could help to change people's lives or help to put in something in place that would make people's life better.
Catherine was raised in Inchicore, where she still lives with her husband Joe. They have 5 grown-up children.
I am a politician, but I'm a working mother as well. And I have the everyday life things that people do. I go to the shops. I collected my children from school. You know, I do the normal things. But my job is representing people who elected me to the position I'm in.
Being a TD in a government who have been responsible for implementing severe austerity, Catherine knows all too well the level of anger and discontent in her constituency.
I had people protesting outside my office. I had people coming in verbally abusing me in my office. A budget has to be brought in to make sure that everything takes over. And when you don't have the money that you would like to have, things are actually taken back.
Over the next few weeks, Catherine has agreed to immerse herself in the community so she can experience firsthand the issues that people on social welfare are facing as a result of all the cutbacks.
Politicians don't do themselves any justice neither. I think we need to be able to be more open to people, more honest with people, and communicate better with people.
28-year-old Laura Spencer lives in a Dublin council flat in the Liberties and is a lone parent to her 2 daughters, Casey and Hannah.
What are you afraid of?
I honestly thought that when I went and told my mother that I was pregnant, I expected World War III because my dad was only at the passing and I thought that I was going to tear my family apart, but on the contrary it didn't. It pulled us all together. I know a few friends got pregnant at a young age and straight away that's what they're getting told. You're useless, you're going to do nothing with your life. So I always had it in my head that I was never going to. It was never going to stop me doing what I wanted to do.
Laura has gone back to college to try and make a better life for herself and her 2 girls. She attends Cahill Brewer Street DIT School of Culinary Arts, and her dream is to own her own restaurant.
I even got off Casey when I first got my interview for college. I got a big hug and I got an "I'm a proud of you, Mammy." It kind of hit me like, wow, I have somebody that looks up to me, and if she's proud of me, I'm doing something right.
Laura has never come face to face with a politician, and like many others, feels they are completely out of touch with ordinary people and the hardships that they are dealing with on the ground.
None of my friends vote. Like, they don't see a point in voting because they always say they don't listen to us. I want her to understand that even though we're complaining and all, we are grateful, but it is fucking hard.
I know that you are.
Catherine is on her way to the Liberties to meet Laura for the first time. Her constituency of Dublin South Central has one of the country's highest proportions of its population living in both social housing and rented flats.
Looking forward to meeting Lauren and the girls. I think it's an opportunity for me to kind of visit their home and have a conversation with them just about how she's going to face the challenges that come with having to study and look after a young family on her own as well. I came from a community background and I've always been involved in the community and particularly working with young children in youth clubs and choirs and football teams. So I'm looking forward to, for that sense, that it may give people another insight into what they believe is a stereotype politician, that we aren't. We're human beings We're mothers, we're fathers, we have children, we have lives that we weave in and out of when we're not doing our public duty. Anything new is worth doing. I believe the process will help people to understand that, you know, public representatives on the ground do their work, and above all, they do connect with the people.
I haven't been in the Dole, I haven't talked to Enda Kenny, I haven't met Mary Lou McDonald, I haven't met any of these people, so I don't know what they're like. I'm actually curious to sit down in my home and have an actual conversation. I don't want her to be a politician. For the starters, I want her to just be a normal person. Like, I want to know what life is like for her. Like, does she have half the difficulties that we have? Does she know what it feels like to live on a social welfare income? What way is it for her children going to college? Like, does she bring any of this up with the government? And the main thing is, I want to know, does she get the brush off like we do?
Biggie, in you go.
How are you, Laura?
Hey, Catch and Laura.
How are you?
Nice to meet you. This is Biggie.
How are you, Biggie?
Biggie greets everybody as we come to the door.
Hello.
Actually, these are my girls. They're just in from school.
How are you?
This is Hannah.
How are you,
Say
Hannah?
hello.
How are you?
And this is Casey.
How are you, Casey? How are
Can
you?
you tell Catherine how old you are?
Nice to meet you. 7 and 9. Oh my God.
Like, obviously they have normal worries. Everybody has worries. It's just a part of life. But they don't have worries like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm going home to no milk. They don't have that worry. Oh, no way, I've one slice of bread yet. I've 2 children to feed for breakfast in the morning. Fuck, I've no cereal. They don't have that.
Laura, how long are you living here?
I'm here 5 years now, November.
Yes, okay. I'm familiar with around here because I was on the council for 7 years as the local councillor, and I suppose I would have kind of had a huge input into things happening within the regeneration of Fatima Mansions and Teresa's Gardens, so I spent some time on the council for that. Like myself, when I was in college, I had to juggle around children as well in times like that.
What course did you do?
I done the 2 years evening time chef course for commis chef.
Did you find it rewarding? I find it very rewarding when I come home.
I do, and I think it gave you a bit of confidence in yourself
Yeah.
as well. Because I finished school at a very young age, you know, went out to work and kind of then got married and then had children, and then through no fault of her own ended up having to go back into the workforce to work.
I was surprised to hear that she left school at 14. Like, 14 is a very young age to be leaving school. And then she got a job straight away after, like, so she's been working from a young age. And you think of politicians and you just think of them being wealthy and well looked after. It's nice to know that, like, she has a background like that, like, it is possible for even somebody out her family to lose their job. Like, they're not as perfect as, like, we think in our heads that they are. Like the fact that she had to go out and work and take on jobs, and she went back to college and everything like that. It's nice to know that she's kind of, like, normal. Was it always your ambition to go into politics?
Never.
Really?
Never.
How did you end up on that path?
An aunt of mine was involved in Fine Gael.
I've never approached a politician before in my life.
I'm as ordinary as I was when I was elected onto the council.
See, we don't have that perception of you.
Yeah.
We have a completely different way, like,
And I understand that. I understand that because sometimes people say to me, you know, we never see us. But when you're in the Dáil, it's difficult sometimes to get out and kind of touch base with people. But I still kind of drop leaflets and...
That's actually the only time you ever see politicians around the area is when they're canvassing for votes.
I want to understand how Laura is managing and how her life is run on a daily basis, because it's important for me as a public representative to understand that. Now, we can't fix everything, but, you know, there may be things that we may be able to look at in a different manner, and I might be able to raise them inside and maybe get some kind of a change in the legislation, and maybe bring a more human side to the whole concept of people being on social welfare and how they manage on a weekly basis.
When we associate with politics, you don't think of them. We think that you have metal hearts, they're all made of steel.
I think it's good to have... I think it's good to have people from different backgrounds in politics as well.
Yeah.
And, like, I would be one who would really flag the fact that more women should go into politics.
Like, I didn't expect to relate to Catherine in any way whatsoever. I had the persona in my head of what way she was going to be, but she shocked me.
It's been a worthwhile experience already, and we're only beginning. I honestly believe that, because I believe the fact that Laura sees me in a different light. Like, we're not going to change the world, definitely. But what I'm going to be able to do in my capacity as a public representative is maybe to change something in Laura's life to help her with an easier journey throughout her week rearing her children.
With 2 children to raise, Laura has to be very careful about how she spends her social welfare money. The following morning after she receives her dole, Catherine accompanies her on her weekly shop. She's eager to find out how Laura copes with the money she gets and how she manages her budget.
Because the fuel allowance is in at the moment, I get the extra €20. So I get €233.80 when I walk out of the post office. That's my rent gets stopped automatically out of that.
How
as
much
well.
rent have you had?
I pay €33.80 weekly here. And then I'd put 25 to my ESB. And then I usually put 25 to me gas. Some weeks I'll do a big freezer shop, and then the next week I'll do a big fridge shop.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to spend about 60 to 70 euro on shopping. Obviously it's a little bit embarrassing because like little money, what there is, like, but it's nice for her to say that money's not actually just being wasted here and there. Like what we get basically just covers what we need. With my grant at the moment, it hasn't come through just yet.
Okay.
What
grant are you on?
I'm on the Susie grant.
Okay.
Because I was expecting that last week. I had to borrow money off Kerry. So I owe Kerry €20 as well this
And
week.
who's
so
Kerry?
Kerry's my sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's without Kerry I'd be screwed on weeks like this, basically.
Okay. I think Laura is very capable of doing a budget and manages it very well. A lot of people wouldn't have the same skills she would have. Sometimes, like Laura said, there's things come up that you can't predict is going to happen, and that's when people really struggle because they do have to end up turning to friends or family, and if you haven't got that support, you do have to turn to agencies like the Vincent de Paul and others.
So I had a couple of people say to me, why don't you go to them because your grant has taken so long to come through, they can't help. And I was like, no, I'm too proud for that, I don't need it. But tell you the truth, Catherine, I got there a couple of weeks ago where like I was genuinely stuck. And when they came out to me, they leave it till late at night because you know that people do get embarrassed by it. And the only question that they asked me was, am I getting the Susie grant? And the only reason they actually asked me that was because they were willing to help me in case that grant didn't come through. People have this idea that St. Vincent de Paul, if you go to them, well, then you're a beggar. You're poor, like shame on you for going to them. That's the way I always viewed it. So I really had to sit down, and it took a good hour for my mum to drill it into my head, Laura, that if you need help, you have to ask it, and these are the type of people that you have to go to.
There's no magic wand here to be able to kind of, you know, turn around and say, well, listen, every lone parent with 2 children should have €400 a week, because that there isn't that.
Can't do it.
There isn't that. The money isn't here at present. I suppose what's here at present is a gradual building back up into a system where people who need help get help.
Like I like to give the girls pocket money every week. They clean their room, they help me out with chores and whatnot. And there is some weeks where I'm explaining to my children that, I'm sorry girls, you can't have pocket money this week because I genuinely don't have it. And then catching the worst thing about it is I see a look of pity in my kids' eyes. And that breaks my heart.
My eyes were opened when I went back into education, and I wanted more. And like you'll want more for your children as well.
I know.
And that's what it should be about. I'll do anything I can to assist you in the next couple of months and weeks if you think I have a role to play in outlining in government how you're managing your money. And I will speak about it.
It's nice now as well that she's taken back the budget and she can actually show when she sits in the Dail that, right, you give this amount of money every week and this is what the outgoings for this family is this week. This is what one single parent family has to go through every week.
In part 2, Catherine gets to visit Laura's local breakfast club and meets the very outspoken Liz who runs it.
People that's in these parties, they haven't got a clue how people live. They don't know what it's like to live on a social welfare payment. They don't know what it's like to have kids going to school hungry.
Laura Spencer from the Liberties in Dublin has invited her local Fine Gael TD, Catherine Byrne, to spend a week experiencing what life is like for her and her 2 daughters. Today, Catherine is at Laura's apartment bright and early to see her weekday morning routine.
Are you finding it difficult trying to get them into school before you go off to college?
There's some mornings, like obviously you know yourself, there is some mornings where I'm more tired than usual, and then the 6:30 that can be a little bit much, but then it's just a matter of just getting up and bearing through it, and then it gets easier then as it goes on.
And do they go to breakfast club every morning?
No.
No.
Just some mornings, like if I have to go to college early or anything like that. And then some mornings they'll actually opt to go. I think they'll be sick of the sight of me in the mornings. They just want to live.
I suppose when you go back to college as young as Laura is, and you do have the responsibility of 2 young children, it is very difficult. But she is making the effort now to, I suppose, put her foot in a different place, and that's through education. And I think that can be only of great benefit not only to Laura but her children as well, because they'll see, and children learn from what they see, you know.
The local breakfast club is an extremely important community service, catering for up to 20 kids on a daily basis. But because it receives no government funding, it relies completely on the goodwill of the community to ensure its survival.
I think the breakfast club is a unique thing in Dublin. It started off in Dublin way back about 20 years ago in schools. It's ventured outside of the school gate now for some reason. I suppose there's more to just a breakfast club than sitting down for a bowl of cereal. It's a whole community project and communication thing with children. And it helps children as well focus on where they are living in the communities where they live. And I think breakfast clubs develop that along the way. I'm just a bit disappointed that they aren't as frequent in schools as they used to be, because I think the breakfast club in the school was an ideal platform.
Mwah. Don't forget your manners and say thank you to Liz. Don't just good kids. Liz, thanks very much. You'll probably more than likely be in for homework club today. Thank you. Right, I love you. Have a great time.
Well, what's your name?
Leon.
Are you sure this is yours?
They let you know who has what.
Liz has taken on supporting young children who may not be in the position, their families for whatever reason, to be able to have a breakfast in the morning. Without people like Liz, who's the salt of the earth, that's what Liz is. Liz is the salt of the earth. But there's many of Liz's throughout every community, and without them, a lot of young children, particularly in poorer areas, haven't got the opportunities that other children would have, you know.
Come on. Right, thanks, Liz. Have a good day.
The importance of the breakfast club is not only to provide young children with a nourishing breakfast before school, but it allows lone parents like Laura the chance to go back to college or work. Liz and others like her provide an invaluable service to their communities.
So we're going to now use our starch to thicken our sauce.
Liz is a role model in our community. Like, you could have the biggest, deepest, darkest problem in the whole world, and Liz is that type of lady that you could sit down and you could spill your feelings to. I am very comfortable leaving my children with her. They're like our own, they really are. Like, she was, when we were even in summer project, when we were little, like, we all looked up, we always had that little bit of fear in Liz. She can put the fear of God into you if needed, but she's amazing when it comes to children. Our breakfast club closed down and she missed the kids something terrible, so she got her back up and running again. I'm only one person that sends my 2 children to that homework club. I know plenty of parents out there that are sending their kids every day, and if that went, they'd have to quit their jobs. They'd have to leave their education. Like, if I didn't have Liz, there are some days that my family can't help me out. If that wasn't there, how would I be sitting here right now in this uniform? I wouldn't be. Stick Liz in the Dole for a week and we'd get life sorted out, I can tell you that now. She's an amazing woman.
Any other feedback? Delicious.
I definitely would not like be raising my kids now. In this era, I wouldn't. My biggest problem, Catherine, when the boom hit and the downturn, was why they didn't burn the bondholders. Because at the end of the day, I said, the people that haven't got it is the ones who's going to pay. And we haven't got it. And my words came through, Catherine. You're talking about people that's going out every day and working and still can't manage. They're the new working poor in the country. That's what they call it. They're the new working poor.
If you were a member of the Dole now, Liz, and you were in government, how would you go around solving all the problems that you claimed?
Well, you know me well enough, Catherine, and I have to say, if I ever was in the Dail, I wouldn't be answerable to any party whip. Because to me, if you put yourself forward for election in the community, you're answerable to the people, nobody else.
Do you think if the next government was compiled of independents and People Alliance and People Before Profit and all of them, do you think they'd be able to do a better job?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah,
Why, Liz?
Because they're more in touch. See, Catherine,
why though?
People that's in these parties, they haven't got a clue how people live. They don't know what it's like to live on a social welfare payment. They don't know what it's like to have kids going to school hungry. These These are the people that's running a country. They live in a bubble. They don't know what the outside world is like. But there's a few of us in there that come from the working class background, and you know what it's like, you know the struggle that's out there. But you're tired to what you can do by your party whips. Why would your conscience say, well, right, this is wrong, but I have to follow the whip?
No, it's not about following whip. It's about looking at the bigger picture, Liz. And the bigger picture in this country is to get the economy right and get people back to work.
I mean...
And part of that is, yes, social welfare was reduced. Everybody right across, people were paying you bigger tax. Now, there's starting to be a little bit light at the end of this tunnel. The sooner the better this country gets back on the feet, the sooner the better we're going to be able to look after those people who are less well off.
I am the blank page before you. I am the fine idea you crave.
Liz is employed through one of the community groups. And my understanding was when you're employed through a community group and a project is set up, that the project is maintained and run as well through the community. That doesn't seem to be happening for Liz. And I'm going to find out why, because I think what she does is a huge, unique services. And only for the people and their generosity, the Breakfast Club wouldn't happen. But, I mean, there's plenty of community groups right throughout the area. And my opinion, humble opinion, it's too many. I think we need to dwindle them down and support the good ones that are doing the good work. And Liz's is one of them. What you're doing here every morning is what should be happening in every community. Yeah. But it should be supported. And you have to find a mechanism to support that, Liz. There's no point in paying you as a worker to be here if they can't maintain the project, that you're dependent on charity to keep the project going. And that's wrong,
Because
Liz.
the cutbacks, Catherine.
That's wrong.
There's too many cuts.
That's wrong.
I'd say it's very frustrating for Catherine going there some mornings and having to listen to the bullshit that's going on. And now she's coming back into her own community where she sees the hardships. She knows what's happening on the ground. As I said, there's very few of them in there that would know what's going on the ground. You have to come from a background like this to understand what the people is going through. If I had a quarter of the money that some of those TDs are earning, I could do a lot with the kids in this area. But you don't seem to understand that. Unfortunately, we're on the bottom of the ladder. But we do what we can do.
In part 3, Catherine gets to see firsthand the condition of Laura's council flat, while Laura's sister Kerry highlights her predicament caused by years of government inaction on social housing.
If I get a full-time job, it's not even going to cover me rent a month. I'd literally be working to pay me rent and that'd be it.
And drivers nationwide.
TD Catherine Byrne has spent the last 3 days with Laura and her girls. But her Dole commitments make it difficult for her to give that amount of individual time to others in her constituency and to keep in touch with local issues as much as she would like to.
I'm still holding on to your waistband. Turn away and kick up the red sand.
It's a vast constituency. It stretches from the edge of Chapel Lizard to the edge of Terranure and takes in Walkinstown and Crumlin, Drimna and Ballyfermot and Bluebell and Inchicore and all of the inner city. So it can be quite a task. People might say, oh, we haven't seen you. But the fact that you're trying to focus in on different areas over the year is difficult sometimes.
This girl, Diane, might come and see you tonight at the clinic.
But who is she?
It's about housing.
Yeah, okay. The office is a benefit because during the daytime, if you're not around, people have a direct contact with you, a visual contact, which they don't have when you're inside in the Dail. But I suppose if I had a choice as to where it would be, whether it be national or local politics, I'd just be a local politician. You know, that would be my goal, to be kind of seen locally and work locally. I've stressed that to the HSE. I told them that we need to know by Thursday how he's fixed. I don't ask people when they come into my clinics, who did they vote for the last time? I don't ask people that. I don't think that's any of my business. My business is if somebody comes in and they're looking for a bit of help or a little bit of advice, and sometimes it's only a phone call, may not be a major issue. It's my job as a public representative to do whatever I can on their behalf. You have to be sympathetic with people to their plight because you're not in their shoes, and I think that's very important for anybody who wants to be in politics, that you give people the opportunity to listen to what they have to say rather than judge them. No problem. I'll be in touch with you, Eamon. Okay. God bless. Bye, bye, bye.
This morning, Catherine is accompanying Laura to pick up her 2 girls from school and to meet her older sister, Kerry.
Catherine, Kerry Catherine.
How are you? Nice to meet you. And these are your two?
That role.
Okay.
Without Kerry, I don't know if I'd be in college at the moment, to tell you the truth. Because I dropped him down to my mum's quite early in the morning. Kerry drops him to school for me and then she collects him. There could be better things she could be doing, but no.
Most people have young children and families living nearby all depend on their relatives and their brothers and sisters and their aunts and uncles and grannies and granddads. And that's important as
That was
well.
my biggest fear, finding somebody to drop the kids to school and then collecting them, because I knew I won't be in full time.
Yeah. Laura is an example to a lot of young people who may have had children at a very young age and lost out in that gap of being able to further their education. And I think that's what the government want. We want to give people the opportunity that they may have missed out on.
Hey, Vinny! What's the crack with all the milk?
How'd you get on today?
Good.
Happy?
They're all excited today. Full of beans. Yeah. Oh, you can't solve. Do you want me to take it?
With the girls away and her sisters, Laura gets the opportunity to talk to Catherine about the dampness and condensation issues that she has in her flat.
Damp seems to be probably one of the main biggest problems at the moment. The corporation are trying to tell me that it's condensation. But even though they're telling me that's condensation, they won't put any vents into the house. It was about 3 weeks ago I was lying in bed and I felt water dripping on me. I thought maybe I was at a spilling something along the lines of, but when I looked up there was just a little puddle on my ceiling from where the damp really is, and now I have to ring them and constantly be on the case about it to get them to come out and do something, which in my opinion I don't really think is fair, considering I've paid my rent for 4 years. I've never once missed my rent, and I'm actually €30 on credit with my rent at the moment.
It's a sad time in 2014 that people are living in such bad conditions. But a lot of these flat complexes are so old. A lot of them have very flat roofs, which result in many of them being poorly maintained, the roofs, which causes an awful lot of the dampness that we saw.
And when I had the corporation fella out with me, he was out about, I'd say it was about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. He said to me out straight, Laura, I'm surprised that ceiling has not come in on top of you. And I was like, if it comes in on top of me, that's saleable, but if it comes in on top of one of my kids, and it's a completely different story.
I suppose for me, one of the biggest issues for Laura at the moment is the sealant in the kitchen, which has fallen in. It's not only a complicated problem, it's a dangerous problem.
Right. There's my fuse box, and a couple of times it has happened where there has been pools of water right in the middle of this floor. If that goes into that fuse box, or that if a fire was to break out in this house, and if, for instance, it was to break out in this hall, I have no way of getting to my children.
Most people will put a lick of paint on their walls, paint their doors, but when it becomes as complex as sealants falling in, tiles falling off the wall, they're happening because there's underlying problems in that complex, and they're deeper than just putting a lick of paint on the wall.
If you were to just walk in without being a politician, would you move into a flat like this?
No, I wouldn't, and I suppose the fact is this, that it wouldn't be the first time I've seen conditions like this, particularly with this.
In your opinion, do you think the corporation are lacking when it comes to the upkeep of corporation homes?
No, without doubt. I've said it openly. I've said it on the council. I've said it in the Dole. I will be contacting the council. I'll be speaking to a number of people in the housing department and in the maintenance section, particularly around Laura's problems. And I'll be addressing some of the more serious issues that I see.
Funding for social housing was decimated during the recession, with the result that there are now 90,000 families on waiting lists throughout the country. Threshold, the national housing charity, are at the coalface of the housing crisis.
Traditionally, the quality of social housing has tended to be much better than housing in the private rented sector. However, the problem during the economic downturn has been that local authorities have essentially dismantled their housing sections. Their housing maintenance sections have been under pressure, understaffed, and as a result, it's really been left to social housing tenants themselves to repair and maintain their properties. The problem is that these are people who are living on low incomes. That's the reason they're in social housing in the first place. So certainly there's an issue about the quality of the properties having degraded over the period of the economic downturn. And I suppose the other issue is it takes a long time for empty social housing properties to come on stream. You know, it incenses people to see boarded up social housing. They really need to get back into the business of bringing these properties back into use as soon as possible.
All of this to me stems back to a number of years ago when we had projects like the regeneration of Fatima Mansions, particularly in the inner city, the regeneration of Michael's estate, when there was huge plans put in place and there was money there, but because of a reluctance by local people and people working in the areas wanting to get a package that was unrealistic completed, And a lot of those developments that should have gone ahead, including Michael's estate, fell, and it didn't happen. In the last 2 or 3 years, the housing stock voids are being left and weren't being put back into use, and that has a huge backlog of about 660 something apartments and houses that need now to be put back into the housing stock as soon as possible.
Laura's sister Kerry has housing issues of her own, and Catherine has agreed to discuss them with her to see if anything can be done.
Okay, so you're 5 to 6 years on the council list.
Yeah.
The last time before the bans came in, you're about 102.
Yeah.
Do you know what area?
For Dublin 8, I'm 1,028 down the list.
Yeah.
And for Dublin 7 area, I'm 228 down.
So why they changed it was, just say for somebody who was in private rented and had 3 or 4 children, but somebody would come in and they might be less time on the list, but they'd have 6 kids, so they'd go to the top of the list.
Yeah, I get that.
So to bring it by length of tenure means the people who are on it 10, 8, 7 years, they're hired, and the people who just come in the past, you didn't know where you were, but you know where you are now.
Yeah.
And looking at the 2 lots of figures, you're not in a great shape.
But how could I be put back down on the list when I had the points to begin with?
I would have people come into the office here and there could be 10, 12 years on the list. So automatically, because it's length of tenure now, they've gone above you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
While we had an oversupply of housing in the country, it was quickly gobbled up over the last few years. And I suppose what we're seeing now is actually we're coming out the other side of that with a housing shortage in Dublin in particular, and particularly in the rented sector. And as a result, people are out there competing to get rented accommodation. Rents have increased by about 25% in Dublin since mid-2011. About a third of people living in the private rented sector are dependent on a state payment called rent supplement to pay their rent. That has actually been decreased over the period of the economic downturn, and people are losing their homes.
So you're living with your 2 children in this cottage, and you're getting 669 from social welfare, and you're adding the rest to it yourself, which is €800.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's gone up since then. It's now 850.
And 50.
And it'll go up again in October to 900. I know now I will not be able to afford that. I won't.
Right. So what do you see then doing if
I go out and get a full-time job, I'll lose the rent allowance. If I get a full-time job, it's not even going to cover me rent a month. I'd literally be working to pay me rent, and that'd be it. Yeah. I'm not getting myself depressed by giving up something that helps me.
No.
And going out and getting a full-time job for something to run myself into the ground. Yeah. I'm not doing it.
I mean, there's no question that the amount that's paid under rent supplement is completely out of kilter with the market, that people can no longer, even by topping up their payments, they can no longer hang on to their homes, and something needs to be done about that. And I suppose what we're saying is rental supplement limits have to be increased.
The amount of money that the governments have been paying out, not only our government, but previous government have been paying out on rental allowance, has been massive amount of money. Where do you stop? Where do you say to a landlord, I'm sorry, you know, you're getting €950 a month for the rent. We can't afford to be paying landlords 1,600, 1,200, and I put it down personally to grade, I'm being honest with you. If you say, yes, we'll give the landlord 1,200, I can guarantee you within 2 months later, it'll be going up to 1,400. So it has to be a sealant.
Well, the argument put forward by the Minister for Social Protection is that if you increase rent supplement limits, that it will increase rents across the board. But you also need to regulate rents if you don't want to chase the market. But the reality is the government has relied on the private rented sector to provide housing for people who traditionally would have got local authority housing. And to some extent, if you rely on the private market, then you have to pay private market rates.
So basically, because the government can't provide proper rent allowance, that's why the landlords are...
Yeah, of course they are.
Refusing rent allowance.
Yeah, because
it's not the government's fault that the housing is so bad the way it is, that they haven't put sufficient money in the last couple of years.
Well, they haven't been, because the money hasn't been there.
Yeah, but where's all the money gone? Do you know what I mean? Given to all the bankers.
No, it's not.
We're still paying for it. So how are we in this predicament? Because they didn't give it to the bankers?
The rent allowance has nothing to do with bankers.
I'm on about in general. We're paying for the government's mistakes.
No, well, I don't agree with you on that.
I have to say, that's my opinion. Same way we're being asked to pay for water or something that falls from the sky.
Well, the point being, I think in
water.
fairness to what you're saying is a lot of what's been said out there, but a lot of it is misinformation as well. The government's not in a position to go out and build a housing estate of 600 houses all on the one side, because that's not going to happen. Because we can't be building places that we can't put in proper community facilities in it.
There's no point in doing that. My own personal opinion is the government should build in small units around the city. The commitment is there from the government last week in the new housing strategy that this 2.8 billion will be put into housing and social housing, and certainly will make a dent in housing situation out there, but it's not going to be overnight. It's going to take a number of years. But
it'll get there.
It will get there. It has to get there, because we can't continue to allow people not have anywhere to live, and we can't continue to keep on paying for people to live in hotels. And there's no way a hotel is the right place to have a family living in.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
In part 4, Catherine pulls no punches with the council about the condition of Laura's flat.
I wouldn't live in this condition, would you? And you wouldn't ask a family member to live in it neither. And it needs to be addressed urgently.
And she goes back to see Liz with a bit of good news.
I'll give you a commitment. I'll work on that with you and say, can we get some kind of extra funding to put in an extra 2 CE workers?
That'd be brilliant.
Nationwide.
Fine Gael TD Catherine Byrne has been with Laura Spencer and her family for nearly a week, trying to help sort out some of their housing issues. And she has run out of patience with the council about the state of Laura's flat.
Hiya, I'm just ringing you again. You got my email and you got the photographs, yeah. But I sent them on to you because I really wanted to emphasise to you the deplorable state of particularly the kitchen, and then the bathroom and the hall, where in the hall there's actually water coming through the ceiling, trickling down by the electric box, which I believe is absolutely highly dangerous. And this young girl's living with her 2 young children. I wouldn't live in this condition, would you? And you wouldn't ask a family member to live in it neither. And it needs to be addressed urgently. It's so volatile now with the market the way it is. And I have a lot of couples coming to me and individuals saying, look, we've got a letter from our landlord, we have to be out in the next month, we've no alternative accommodation. It's very difficult to tell people the truth, but I'd rather tell them and not build up their hopes, and hopefully that, over the next coming 2 or 3 years, the situations will change. And the fact now that there's a budget there, I think will make a huge improvement.
Catherine has returned to her old college to visit Laura and see how she's getting on with her course.
You want some onions, peppers, courgettes, and aubergine. We fry off olive oil, yeah? A little bit of seasoning and some mixed herbs. That's our ratatouille. All right. Our palmana.
Coming in today brought back a lot of memories. I came back into Kettlebrewer Street at 25 around that time. I mean, it was tough, but it was very rewarding when the course was finished. And I remember receiving my diploma in the post, and just the feeling that was, I'd never sat an exam before. How are you getting on now doing the course?
No, tell you the truth, it's very tiring. At the end of the day, like when I got home, I barely function, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
We've only 1 kitchen class a week, that's on a Thursday. Now, the new nutrition course that we have, that's a mandatory course. If we don't pass that, we don't go into second year. Even though it's for the kids as well, it's for me as well, just so that I know that, like, yeah, you've accomplished this today, you've learned something out that class today. Like, it's just nice to know that I'm learning something new, and I enjoy being at home with the kids. I love it, but coming in here, it's a little thing for me. It boosts me at the end of the day, and everyone needs a little bit of a boost in their life. It's very rewarding. Because most people in my class are only coming straight out of leaving certs. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be it. I'm going to stay. I was down with myself thinking I get swallowed up, but no, once I put my mind to it and I just sit down, make sure all my coursework is done.
Yeah, but it shows you that, if you put your mind to do something and if you really want to do it, you will do it.
I kind of connected to Catherine a little when it comes to the kitchen. It was lovely to be in the kitchen with her this morning. Like she started off in a college to go to be a chef, and now she's sitting in the Dole every week. Like, that is some difference between the two of them, but she got herself on the step, and now, look, she was saying that she wouldn't mind going back and doing another course now after doing this. Like, she'd like to do theology, and that shocked me. Like, even though she's had to do all this, she still wants more.
Sometimes I wonder maybe I should have stayed at the catering. But that was a long time ago, But I still make a mean apple tart. I'm a true believer in the fact that the more education and the more jobs you have and the more opportunities to meet with people and see their experience, better chance you'll have in life achieving what you want to achieve. I really haven't achieved what I want to achieve. I'm still looking. I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
There is no direct funding available for breakfast clubs, so Catherine cannot improve Liz's situation in that regard. but she has used some of her contacts in the catering industry to provide some much-needed supplies.
So if you don't mind, we'll sit down and put a list together and see exactly what you need, rather than giving you stuff that you mightn't use, you know.
But I used what he gave me.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. That was a week's supply.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I was glad of it.
Yeah, okay.
The unfortunate thing about Liz is, and lots of little groups like that work quietly in the background, is funded. And Liz would be employed by the South West Inner City Network. So whatever, they would just employ the person, they don't fund the project. So Liz would depend on a lot of shopkeepers around supplying bread, and I know she was telling me last time she has a farmer who supplies eggs. So just through my own personal contact with people, I've actually organised some kind of food products that will be sent to her. She got a small quantity delivered, and I'm in the process of speaking to the manager of the place as well now, to see what else Liz needs, and maybe do it either on a monthly or 3 monthly basis to build up our stock.
The artwork is lovely. It's really nice. It's really good job.
Yeah, but it's going to do it all along here.
Yeah.
Like the jungle sitting.
Okay.
And on the pillars.
And on the pillars.
Yeah, so we're going to just need more volunteers coming in, because I can only take so many kids with the numbers I have. But well, if I get enough of people in here to help me, we're going to extend here until 6 o'clock.
For your after school?
For the after school,
Yeah.
so at least the young mothers want to go back to work, the kids will be here at 6, and it's free.
So you can take them from school?
So we can take them to school. I'd need more people to help me.
Okay, well, I'll give you a commitment. I'll work on that with you and see, can we get some kind of extra funding to put in an extra 2 CE workers?
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, no, I promise you I'll do that.
Yeah, Catherine.
All right, Liz. Listen, I'll be in touch with you, Liz. God bless. Mind yourself. Be in touch during the week, okay? See you, Liz.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Catherine's pressure on the corporation has paid off, and they've begun work on Laura's flat to sort out her damp problems. Catherine is heading over there for the last time to check out the work for herself and say goodbye to Laura and her 2 girls.
So there's been some progress?
Yeah, not much, but there's been a bit.
Okay.
Well, they took the ceiling down. Remember I had that big gaping thing there? I can open my door again, so that's good.
That's good.
But they took it down, they plastered it, and they weren't that long down it either, I know. But he did tell me that he'd be back out in the morning the day after to paint it, but never heard from him again.
And did they say why the ceiling had bellied?
No, never gave me any reasons. Like, Catherine has gave us the figures about how many people are living in this area at the moment, and to have 2 plumbers and 1 electrician. Like, how did he expect to even get the work done? No wonder they're behind in the work if they don't have enough people working for them to get it done. I hated the way it was hanging down, because you'd be in the shower and you'd find bits fitting your hair.
Sure,
but
it was really bad.
now. Yeah,
and
it was
they painted the ceiling.
Yeah, they gave it a good paint as well.
Good. Well,
It didn't take that long either.
That's great, and that's positive anyway.
Yeah, they should be listening to me no matter what. I'm their tenant at the end of the day. They're my landlord. You shouldn't need to go to a politician every time there's a slight little problem in the house. Like, you should be able to get it fixed, like, by through a phone call and them coming out, and when they fix it, I want it done properly.
They are sending out a man to look at the roof to see if part of the problem is if there's a leak on the top of the roof, that they would fix that as well. So I'll be back onto them during next week.
And if it wasn't for you, started show catching, I don't think I would have got most of it done that's being done. And at least now I know that, like, I've somebody on my side. It's nice to know someone there.
Well, I think in general most people who go up for elections and get elected are on people's side. Sometimes just people don't want to ask. And it's just the initial ask and lifting up a phone and saying, listen, I have a problem, can you help? And I suppose if people done that more often, you know, we would be able to fix things a lot easier before they fall into kind of total disrepair. As meeting me, giving you a different perception of politicians in general and politics.
Politics, I have a better understanding, but my view on politicians probably hasn't changed very much, to tell you the truth. But it's nice to know that somebody like you is actually sitting and fighting for the likes of me and other people around that don't have a voice, so to speak, and I'm proud to say that my voice is sitting in there at the moment. It may be a broken system, but if that's the case, why hasn't Catherine changed? Like, why isn't she hardened? That's the word that I would use when I think of politicians. They're very hardened. Like, they could have every good intentions of going in and speaking up for the people. Why aren't they still doing it? Why let the system harden you? It may be a broken system, but you're there to fix it.
If there's one thing I'll take away from the last 2 weeks of being around you and your children is the fact that, you know, there are young people out there who really want to make a new start And my role as a politician is to help you do that.
I'm happy I did it. I was very apprehensive to start off with. I was like, what way am I going to be portrayed on telly? Like, am I going to come across very big-headed because I'm this one person going back to college? I didn't want to seem like that, but I hope people, whoever does watch the programme, they're like, right, well, remember I was really good at making that art or something along the lines. They're like, right, well, maybe I can do it. If I hadn't got to know you on a personal level, I would have continued to judge a book by its cover. So you give me a little bit of hope that there is a little bit of a bright future at the end of the day.
Good. I'm delighted to hear that.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks again, Catherine. I'll sure see you again.
You will.
Yeah.
You're going to hear from me anyway.
Oh, yeah, lovely. Can't
Okay.
wait.
Bye.
Talk to you again.
From life on the Dole to life in some of the remotest parts of Ireland with amazing stories. Our new landmark series, Islanders, continues Wednesday at 9. Up next, one of the most shocking court cases Ireland's ever seen. Our special, the Graham Dwyer murder trial, is after the break.